Hey guys, Fazzy back here. And in today's video, I wanted to do my NHL mock draft. So the NHL draft is coming up here in this next week, and really the first round seems very unpredictable outside of really your top pick. So I wanted to go through at least my top 10 here today. I don't think I'm going to go any further than that. Give my predictions, give a little bit of a reasoning behind it, and then we can look back on this video in a week or so and see if I'm correct at all. Probably not, let's be real, but we can kind of compare it and see how it all looks later on. And just on a side note, I did want to note with the draft coming up this week, I was maybe thinking of doing a live stream for the draft and just going over reactions of the first round. Again, I don't know if I'm actually going to end up doing this. I've never actually done a live stream here on YouTube, so if I can get everything all figured out, we might end up doing that. If not, maybe down the road, and we can do kind of something like that for other similar events. So, I just did want to note that here for you guys. Let's get into my predictions for the 2024 NHL Draft. Alright, so with the first overall pick, the San Jose Sharks are on the clock, and obviously they're going to be taking Macklin Celebrini with the first overall pick. Again, this is more or less almost confirmed. Mike Grier has not done a very good job at hiding what he wants to do with this pick, basically confirming that Macklin will be the first overall pick in the 2024 NHL Draft. Again, I think this kid is going to be absolutely outstanding in the NHL level. Might take him a couple of years to just get going and reach his full potential. Similar maybe to a guy like Alexis Lafreniere. Again, now, especially just in the playoffs here recently, he really ended up hitting his stride and has taken his game to the next level. And yeah, I see the similar kind of comparison for Macklin here at the NHL level. The Sharks will take him first overall. So moving from pick number 1 to pick number 2, the Chicago Blackhawks. I see them taking Ivan Demidov. This, up until a couple of days ago, I was questioning a little bit, but I think it is a slam dunk here after the NHL Draft Combine and everything like that. It came out that he grew from 5'11 to 6'1". You might not think that overall that is the biggest deal, but from what I've heard and just what I've been watching from all the media and everything, when it comes to the NHL play and everything like that, having those extra couple of inches is a big thing at the NHL. And again, everything says that he is going to be coming over, has no interest in staying in Russia, which is huge for an NHL team. There's always the Russian factor. Will the player actually sign with you? How long will it take to get them to come over? Perfect example like Michkov. But everything sounds like he will be coming over and will be playing in the NHL by next spring. So I have the Chicago Blackhawks taking Ivan Demidov second overall. And with the third pick in the NHL Entry Draft, the Anaheim Ducks. Who do I see them taking? This one might be a little bit off the board for some people, but I see the Ducks taking Anton Selayev here at number 3. He is the big 6'7" defenseman out of Russia. Good two-way guy, good defensive defenseman. He is a guy that I think no matter what will be a solid NHL defenseman, but I think it's very boom or bust on how good he actually gets at the NHL level. Obviously being 6'7", you can make the comparison to a guy like Victor Hedman, who has had a fantastic career up until this point. Obviously, that would be the best case scenario for Selayev here. I think potentially you could see him cap out at a top 4 defenseman at the worst. But I think for Anaheim, especially after making the trade for Cutter Gauthier earlier this year, I think they're going to be wanting to pick up another defenseman. And why not pick up the biggest one available and the one with maybe the best ceiling? It's hard to say, but I have the Ducks going with Selayev at number 3. At number 4, the Columbus Blue Jackets. I have the Blue Jackets taking Caden Lundstrom. I think Lundstrom would be great for the Jackets to add to their forward core. A big power forward. I think he can almost slot into their lineup maybe one more year. If not this year, it's hard to say. You'll have to see how he does in training camp, everything like that. But I've heard a lot of interest with him in Columbus. Also heard a lot of interest with him in Montreal. I think if he was to get to number 5, Montreal would be all over it, but I have him going to Columbus at pick number 4. So going to Montreal now at pick number 5, and since they did miss out on Caden Lindstrom, I have them going with Artem Levshinov. I think ideally the Habs would probably not want to go defensively with this pick, but I think if Levshinov's still available, you have to go best player available here. Again, this is a guy that is really been in the conversation to go 2 or 3. I could see him potentially falling a little bit. A lot of people do consider him the best defenseman in the draft. And again, Montreal on the defense is absolutely loaded when it comes to prospects. Have a lot of very good players coming up in that system. But I think you just have to go best player available. Worst comes to worst, you trade 1 or 2 of those guys, and you still have a very solid defensive group. So I have the Canadiens taking Levshinov at pick number 5. So moving on to Utah now. Who do I see Utah taking? I currently have them taking Sam Dickinson from the London Knights. Again, this is going to be kind of a run of defensemen that we're on here. The top 10 is pretty stacked when it comes to defensemen, if I'm being honest. Dickinson, he's just a guy that can really do anything for you. Great two-way guy. Very solid defensively. And see him just being a really solid top 4 defenseman of the future for Utah. Again, looking at their pipeline, they have some good players. They don't really have a top defensive prospects that I'm thinking of. They have Simishev, they drafted last year. Obviously, that was Arizona. They have JJ Mozar, who's very good. But I think adding Dickinson to that group would be very smart for them, and that is who I see them taking at pick number 6. So moving on from Utah to Ottawa here at pick number 7, I have the Ottawa Senators taking Zeev Boehm. I think Boehm is one of those guys that has the potential to be just an incredible offensive defenseman out of this class. Playing in Denver this last year, if I'm not wrong, put up something like 50 points in 40 games or something along those lines. He is a guy that I've had a lot of trouble really deciding where I want to see him go all year. Even just working on the NHL draft classes with the roster and everything, I've had a lot of trouble really seeing where I think he's going to go. But I think if he is available to Ottawa at 7, that could be a guy that could be a top pairing guy, could be a great power play quarterback for you of the future. So I have Boehm going to the Senators at pick number 7. Moving on to the Seattle Kraken at pick number 8, I see the Kraken taking Zane Parekh. Parekh had one of the best years, I think, almost of all time for a defenseman in the OHL. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure he had something just under 100 points. I saw he had more than 30 goals in 66 games or something like that. This guy could end up being the best offensive defenseman in the draft. Again, it's a very boom or bust pick with these offensive defensemen coming to the NHL level. The question is, can they keep up this play? Can they adjust to the physical style of the NHL? That is something that they will have to see as they continue to develop their game. But I think if you're Seattle and Parekh is available at 8, I think that's a slam dunk pick for you. So I have Zane Parekh going to the Kraken at pick number 8. So from the Kraken to the Calgary Flames at 9 here, I think this one's pretty obvious. I have Tij Iginla going to the Flames at number 9. This would just be such a cool moment seeing Iginla go to the Flames. Obviously, his dad played there more or less his whole career. And I really do want to see this happen on draft day. A lot of people are saying that he could go higher up in this draft. The issue is, who does he end up surpassing? I don't know. I could maybe see him going to Montreal just because of them wanting a forward. But like I said earlier, if you're the Canadiens, I think you have to take best player available, which is likely defense at that point. Again, who knows? It's hard to say, but I couldn't not have Iginla going to Calgary here at pick number 9. And then the last pick of this mock draft, I'm only doing the top 10 for this one. I have the New Jersey Devils taking Berkly Catton. So Catton, another one of those just extremely skilled young players. Great playmaker, great offensive skill just in general. In the WHL, he had well over 100 points on the season. I think it was like 115, maybe even 120. That might be a little bit high for him, I'm not too sure. But he's another one of those guys I brought up with Demidov earlier. A little bit smaller on the 5'11 side of things. That's why those 2 inches for Demidov really seem to be making a difference for him in his draft stock. But I think whoever ends up taking Berkly Catton, if you can get him at 10, this is a really sneaky good chance that he becomes a very solid top 6 player for you in the future. Again, how does he adapt at the NHL level? That's something we're going to have to wait and see. But this is definitely a sleeper for me for sure. A lot of projections kind of have him going around this range of, 10 to 15 around there. And I think he is going to be a better player than that. So we'll have to see where he goes on draft day, but I have him going 10th overall to New Jersey. But I think that is going to do it for today's video, giving my mock draft of the top 10 of the 2024 NHL Draft. Definitely let me know down in the comments, where do you guys see some of these players going? Again, there's so many good players, so many similar players in this year's draft that it's really hard to project where everyone's going to go exactly. And I think we're going to see some surprises on draft night for sure. Again, I'm not sure if I'm going to end up streaming it. No promises whatsoever, but who knows? You might actually see me live on this coming Friday. But that will do it for today's video. I will see you all in the next one.